Day 50 of Semen Retention. Oh boy, do I have something to say. My last message was, I think, around day 14. If you see my face and my general look, it's a lot different than day 14. What can I say? Definitely the most life-changing thing that I think I've ever done in my life. Definitely life-changing. I don't feel the need for anything. Before I would get, like, I'm not saying I don't get desires, but before I would get, inclinations to do A, B, or C with any person, right? Because you're watching this content all the time. You're basically brainwashing yourself into thinking that these are normal interactions, or that is a normal way to experience life. And so you think everyone else is doing that, and everyone else thinks that, those types of shenanigans are going on, and they are, because people emulate it. But my life has changed, the way I perceive women, the way I perceive men. I feel like I have a good understanding of my masculine nature now. And that sounds really forced to say, but give me a second. That sounds really forced to say. Sorry if I'm topless, I just woke up pretty much. But yeah, I know what it means to retain my energy now. I know what it means not to release every 2 seconds. I know what it means to hold on to it, and then use it for other means, right? Like working out, and this past 50 days, I don't think I've ever worked out more. I had a streak of 30 days just working out every single day, because that's how much energy I had. I just couldn't handle it. Add that with the sun, add that with good food and fruit, and the vibes were just absolutely immaculate. I don't think I've ever felt that good. It's a bit of a mix, roundup of emotions. I'm able to hold eye contact with women better. I'm able to perceive them in ways that I couldn't perceive them before. I'm getting an inner mapping of their psychology, the way that they react and interact with the world, the way that they represent themselves. I'm getting a good understanding a bit more of their insecurities, because now I'm a guy that walks around, well, I don't look particularly ugly, I'd say, and so I am scanning other women, and they do feel judged by me in the same way. If an attractive woman or someone, dressing nice or whatever, looks at you, you feel judged. And so, because I'm looking at them not from a point of desperation and desire to release, it's more of, oh, you are absolutely gorgeous, but I know that comes from somewhere. I know you were kind of born that way, perhaps, maybe you weren't. I know you work really hard every day, dressing up to look the way that you do. I know, just like me, you're a human with chaos, and, especially women, they deal with a lot of chaos sometimes. Well, a lot of the times it's self-inflicted. But that's just the way that they are. And so I'm really starting to understand not to be that judgmental, as tough as they have been on me, and as contradictory as they've been. It's a bit difficult, but the more women I talk to, the more I interact with, the more I understand that they're not the same, obviously, and that they do vary. Some are insecure, some are more secure, some show more obvious signals, some show less obvious signals. Some lie and create a mask for themselves, and then act another way over text or around their friends and stuff. And that's just like us, except they're a bit better at masking because women are socially conditioned a bit differently. And also their general natures are a bit more sensitive, and they can understand underlying currents of expression, and that really gets that does something for them. That's the way that they navigate. I've just been feeling less, if at all, fear, being topless, being around other men. I'm walking around like my balls are full, bro, and my balls are full. I'm walking around like I'm ready for a release, but I'm not going to, because at this point it's a complete waste. I'm not saying it's not difficult. I'm not saying I don't go back to perhaps looking or perceiving or interacting, but overall the frame needs to be maintained, and I would say my phone habit has completely died, pretty much, for the most part. I'm trying to get it back to 0, which is where I was at for like 30 days, because I was studying multiple times a day. I was working out multiple times a day even, and so overall this has been a huge detox for me, a huge understanding of who I am, what my positioning in the world is, what my energy is meant for. Because as soon as I tried to transmute that energy that I was using, that I was releasing otherwise, I suddenly have a lot to do, right? I suddenly had a lot to do, and I didn't realize, because I didn't have the energy to do it. And so now, performing a task, it might be a bit difficult still, but it's a lot easier than being in a combed, drained state. Another thing is just being generally more stimulated by life. I find I'm able to be more excited over simple things, just simply interacting with people, seeing their outfits, seeing how they move through the world, seeing their little caricatures, seeing animals walk around and their little, likeness. I'm a lot more intrigued, and just, I'm less intimidated by people because I have a full sack and I'm not drained, and I know I'm not cooming to content. And when you go outside, you see the guys that do. You can tell the difference. And even me, if I today released, I would be just the same. I asked someone out on a date. They got very insecure. They started perceiving me as, untouchable, or that I didn't need them. And that is true. At this point, the desire for release from a woman is next to none. Like, I do have it, but I know that all it would do is, if it's the wrong woman, is just drain me and just, push me to numbing. I know it. I just know it. I know that then that I'm not working on my purpose, I'm not using that energy to build myself a better frame, and that I'm dependent. And that's not what I want. That's not what this journey's about. This journey is to build a frame so strong that people gravitate towards it, people are curious about it, and that, a woman perhaps would be likely to join you on the journey if they understood the value of it. But one thing you've got to understand, that a lot of women don't understand the value of it. They don't understand because a lot of these men don't exist. You have men that are simps, you have men that do chase, that do double text, that do, beg for their time. But in this experience, I simply just asked a woman out on a date and got on with my life. You know, when it came to texting, all I did was say, hey, when are you available to meet up? And if they dilly-dallied, which some did, you know, all you do is just, your intentions were stated, and you just leave it to them. You know, they give you an excuse, you say, sure. You know, because you don't need them. Why would you need them? You don't want their release. You don't want their body. They might look good. You might want them, perhaps because they might be upholding a certain lifestyle. But you have to be very careful. So you have to be very careful. And I'm not saying like looks always indicates how they're going to act, but just pay attention, you know, to general demeanor. When you're on retention, you're auditing these women. You know, you're not looking for that release, so you don't chase for it. You can wait. You know, you could wait forever, pretty much. Like realistically, you could. If you can go one day, if you can go 50 days, why can't you go 100? Why can't you go 150? You know. So this is a take back of my life. You know, a take back of times that were wasted chasing individuals, women, men, doesn't matter, you know, trying to have them perceive my value through explanations and through, you know, showings. But it doesn't matter how strong you are, it doesn't matter how powerful you are, it doesn't matter what you're capable of. If you're showing to people that you're always available, if you're showing to people that you're always understanding, if you're showing to people that you'll basically take their shit, you know, and that you don't expect them to do anything or think for themselves in any way. And that's what happens when you're cuming, you know, that's what happens when you're expending this energy outside all the time other than towards yourself, is that you really can't like and enjoy yourself. You really can't appreciate yourself and understand and feel the grounding of your being. And you just want someone else to ground you. But no, you know. But yeah, I'd say this has really made me a bit more in tune with understanding nuances in conversations, nuances in behavior. I'm paying more attention to behavior now instead of the feelings that something provides. I'm looking more at data. You know, if I ask a girl out and she touches me, that's data. That isn't a complete validation that this woman feels A, B, and C about me. And so you're being hesitant. Is she overly flirtatious? Is she looking for just a good time? Is she, because that's the thing as well, you realize on retention is that a lot of women are extremely, you know, don't want to say the word, but it's just like men, you know, and that's okay. It's just a bit more interesting of a conversation. I think a lot of women prefer being desired over the act of pleasure. And there's a lot of women that prefer the act of pleasure. And so you're gonna have to find the distinction as well. I've started to notice that women that are very insecure, they tend to obviously want validation from you and others, at a cost where they don't have to be vulnerable. And so those are ones that you want to weed out as well, is that the whole retention journey is part about vulnerability, about being with God, about being grounded and close to source. And if you have a woman that's scatterbrained and unable to think for themselves, or you know, is deluded by their friends and whatnot, then it's going to be really hard for your grounding retention energy to ground her, because she's looking for things all over the place. And one thing I realize is that it's not necessary, like a lot of men get offended that like, oh, she's talking to this person, she's going to that person, she can't make up her mind. But that tells you who she is, right? A lot of men are like, oh, I'll just wait, or maybe she'll change her mind, maybe she'll fix up, maybe she'll recognize my value. No, dude, you just gotta get moving. You gotta show them, that you're not waiting for them, because they only have those ideas because other men waited for them, or other men, were in their DMs doing A, B, and C. Another thing is how important IRL presence is. So, with my date, the reason why I didn't allow her to make excuses or instill jealousy in me and on these things is because I tried to have an overall IRL presence. If you have an IRL presence that's strong and that evokes certain feelings out of people, they're going to do all sorts of things. They might attack you even if they like you. They might, again, feel insecure of your lifestyle and feel competition, because women, they do feel competition. They do, as much as they don't say it, the parts of themselves inside of them, they feel insecure. That a man has this energy, has this capability, and so you must look at them as humans, obviously, and stop looking at them as this prancy princess that will suddenly fall for you and your likeness. But they're not going to fall for you and your likeness. They are if that is part of your frame. And they fall for your frame. They gravitate towards your eventual direction because you're showing them that you don't need them because you have your own life force and life energy. And so the only reason you would need them or you would want them is if they can cultivate your life force energy and, do things with it, forage with it, cultivate with it, create with it, share, expand. But if they just want it, consume it, do things with their own just to pick themselves up, it means they don't have much of a floor or grounding themselves in order to understand the value of that energy. And instead it's like they're a vampire or they're drained, right? So this overall journey, has shown me that it's not like I already looked decent, I already was lean, I already had these features, but my energy wasn't there, my body language wasn't there. I felt like a fraud. How can I talk with these women if I know I'm cooming? How can I say that I want to get to know them as a person if I'm lustfully thinking about them? And I'm lustfully thinking about them because I don't have control over my impulses, not because necessarily that I'm a lustful person. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of people are all sorts of things if you were to just label every single one of their feelings and thoughts as accurate and the truth. But it's not the truth. Just because you feel lust towards a woman does not mean that you like them, or you like them as a person, or that's it. So try and look at women beyond just the surface, and that you can only do that if you look at yourself beyond the surface, and if you have a good inner world. And you can only do this through the transmutation process, through talking with God, to going out in nature and talking with individuals. And then you get to the point of where your presence, just you existing, does the work. You just sit there radiating still, and people come to you. They come to you, they ask you a question, they see what you're doing because you're involved in your life and you are the main character of your life, right? If you energetically felt other people were the main character, then that's simply what's going to happen. You're just going to be a side character. And so the goal is to fake it till you make it, pretty much. Whatever feeling you feel, being the man, being the capable one, being the one that prays to God, being the one that gets the person that they want and gets the things that they desire, that can fulfill them, not just about what makes them feel good, right? And that's where all this energy needs to go, nowhere else. Because if you don't pursue the release, if you don't pursue the emotional validation, then all you do is perceive, then all you do is crave the cultivation of your energy. You crave someone manipulating your energy in a way that is healthy, right? A bounce back, an interest. And an interest of a lack, like when I want to cultivate with a woman, it's not necessarily out of selfishness. It's about, I would like to provide my energy in ways that she can use to build up the battery and do things with it. So that's not necessarily selfish. A lot of this journey has shown me how important just men existing is, and having, it's important for us to have purpose and goals and not have women as our main needs, which a lot of men do have, and that's because they don't have purpose. You've heard this before. It's a difficult one because you have to get out of the romantic mindset that there will be someone that you can go to that unconditionally loves you. But a lot of the times we don't even unconditionally love ourselves. We don't unconditionally love other people. And so we shouldn't expect that expectation. If we can't do it to ourselves, how can you expect someone else? And so ultimately you have to understand that just because something's conditional does not necessarily mean it's not love. The condition could be safety, the condition could be loyalty, the condition could be security. There's a bunch of things. And so if you have a more grounded, mature perspective, a little bit less romantic about your partner, then you can really enjoy it. You won't get as attached. You won't get, into the weeds of sex and body desires. But simply, I'm living my life as I am, and I really enjoy it. And I would like to add someone to it. And if they are willing to, if they can understand my value and the value of my life, and they want to, do something with me, great. And stepping out of this really rigid mindset that can be caused from toxic relationships of clinging onto people, wanting them to change, and not giving them space to think for themselves, and the goal shouldn't be that you should try to fix or solve or create this perfect map of what should be done, but more give space for the other person to miss you, want you, think about you, create, ask you questions. And this can only happen if you are cultivating your own life. And so any craving, any desire that you have in any way, shape or form towards the opposite gender, you need to put that all into the frame that you're building, the life that you're building, the world that you're building, not as a way to escape that, become falsely busy, but more of so full inside that someone craves to see it, see your inner world, understand it, what makes you you. And there's two ways about it, so this is a good thing. Someone can witness and understand your general gravity on retention, and they will belittle you. So that's an indication, right? They'll insult you, belittle you, say certain things. These are all indications. Or they'll pull you down. They'll try and manipulate you into thinking that you're like them. Or they bounce back. They do a back and forth. They feel, they radiate. They understand the radiation of your energy is not false. It comes from somewhere. and perhaps they can value that because they have some of it themselves. So once you look past the shells, it's just energy exchanges. The girl that I got the number of, yes, she was super good looking or whatever, had an aesthetic, but she was an awful person. Awful person. Manipulative, scared, had toxic friends. And maybe back in the day I would have been like, but she looks so good. She's so cute. I would do anything. No, you wouldn't. You really wouldn't. Because when you're of abundance, right, you have the seed of God inside of you. When you're with that woman, and yes, you're looking at her, but there's only so much you can touch her, there's only so much you can crave her, there's only so much you can be around her, until you have to get on with your life. And so that's just how it should be. And how does she interact with your life? Does she get afraid that you leave? Does she get afraid that you're near her? Does she get afraid? Does she feel scared that you might go to other women, that you might be more valuable? And if that's the case, what does she do? Does she instill jealousy? Does she make excuses? Does she go hot and cold to try and pull you closer because she's afraid to be vulnerable? These things are indications. It doesn't matter how someone looks. It does, sure, it can be an indication. Vitality, general, put togetherness, but it doesn't mean much. And if you interact with people enough, you realize this as well. It's that sometimes the outside is, just a mask for the inside. And you can only figure this out if you figure out yourself, and that your own substance, right? If you are a mask, if you are showing yourself as A, B, or C out of falsity, not out of capability, not out of capacity, then yeah, you're really going to struggle, and you're going to struggle connecting with others. So this whole thing has been a journey, understanding my inner source, understanding my inner body, understanding my place in the world, simply because I retained my energy. It's very important. So that's day 50. The goal is 100 days. It's really difficult for me right now, I'd say. I'm some days viewing content and I don't want to, or acting in ways that I don't want to. But again, I understand that this is a learning journey, and nothing's going to be linear. And the fact that I even got to 50 days, the fact that I even did all of these things, put myself out there, flooded myself out there with all these women, and asked someone out on a date, and followed up and interact with them, and these are all things that I had not done before, or I had, but not in this kind of mindset, this feeling of abundance and lack of need. A want, sure, otherwise why would I be going to them? But need, no. If they're not matching my frame, if they're not matching my position, I can't just simply leave. I've done it before, I'll do it again. And so that's the point, is that you should stop seeing just one woman as a certain thing. You should talk with many, you should talk with all of them, you should interact with all of them. And low-key, they might even like that you talk to others, It's the same thing as, like, if you know the girl you're talking to might be talking to other guys. A lot of guys will chase. A lot of guys will make themselves a certain way. And that's only because they feel like they aren't. They feel like their attention's somewhere else, so they have to spin it a certain way. Whereas if you have the body, if you have the presence, if you have the voice, if you have the messages, if you have the, and you have your life and your work, then you're not really going to get that. You're going to be separate from other men. You're going to be different. You're going to be the one that they think about, the one that won't curate their responses in a way that gets the best response. Sometimes maybe, but it's mostly honest truth. It's like, hey, I like you, or I'm interested in you, I would like to do this thing. That's it. If you're interested into doing this thing, please let me know. If not, I'm just going to take my energy back. And with retention, your energy is so powerful that you can just watch what someone does with it. You give them a little bit, see what happens, you know? Suddenly they run a whole show, especially the witches. And you're just there amused because it's like, I gave you something so little and you did so much with it, and you destroyed yourself, or you destroyed whatever was going on because you got high off the power. And the only people who get high off the power is those that don't have much themselves, or just don't feel very secure and want to take something from someone else and turn it into something else because they don't have something going on themselves. They don't have a routine. So this journey teaches you who has abundance, who doesn't, who does what with your energy. How important is it for you to put your energy towards this person over that person, this project over that project? You understand the nuances, you understand the sensitivities of it. So yeah, I will update you